Okay, so this is going to be my round 3 game in the Melbourne Chess Club Classic. And before that, I just want to say Happy New Year, and I hope everyone's doing well. And let's just hope that we all achieve our chess goals in 2023. And so, yeah, getting right into this game, I did a bit of preparation for my young opponent. He is the son, I think, of the chess club, Melbourne Chess Club president, Alexei Khamatgaleev. So this is Michael Khamatgaleev, and I checked out his chess.com games, and I found out that with black he plays e5 against e4, and in the Italian game he plays the knight f6 variation, and so I was ready to go into my like knight g5 fried liver attack kind of thing, and so after e4. E5, knight f3, knight c6. We kind of blitzed out the first few moves. Knight f6, I was happy to see this move because I'm ready with knight g5. And one of the main reasons I also was happy to go into this is because I saw him play a dubious variation here, which is after d5, which is the correct move, ed5, knight d4. Now, it's very interesting because this is a kind of a way to trick people into, I think, transposing into a variation. But the idea is that there's a stone move of b5 in this position. The point being that if bishop takes b5, then queen takes d5 causes some problems here. And obviously, if we were to give up the bishop, then black would have tremendous pressure on g2. Castles bishop e7, and there's more than enough compensation here for black. So that's a variation. But b5, the main move is bishop f1. And if you play queen takes d5 now, then there's knight c3, and next you can safely take the b5 pawn without the g2 pawn hanging. So I think this variation, it's slightly better for white, although I think there's actually like a new theory that has showed up because of the introduction of engines that has shown that actually this variation is playable. I'll actually leave a link down below for the thread by a famous correspondence chess player, Nikolaos Nitrilis, I kind of forgot his last name, I apologize, but he kind of made a thread explaining that actually this variation is quite playable. Anyways, that's just for the theory buffs. And after knight d4, I play c3 here, kicking the knight back. Obviously, the knight can come to f5, but it's like, I don't think that solves any of black's problems. So b5, and then bishop f1. So now we actually transpose into one of the main lines from this position, which is after b5, bishop f1, knight d4. And from this position, c3, bishop f1, and then knight takes d5. Here, after c takes d4, this is all still known theory. Queen takes g5, bishop takes b5, check now. The known move that has been played a couple of times is king d8. And the reasoning is that you don't really want to play bishop d7, which was played in the game, because after this variation with king d8, black hopes on getting some counterplay along this diagonal with bishop e7, and the variation can go as follows: castles, bishop e7, queen f3, pinning the knight to the bishop, and after rook b8 defending it, we just take on e5, and after knight e3 with a lot of pressure on g2, queen h3 threatens checkmate in 1, so black has to go down this endgame after takes, and then play d4, bishop e7, and then after bishop e2, over protecting the f3 square, knight h4, knight rook d1, defending the pawn, and after this sequence, rook d3, bishop e4, rook g3, for example, this sequence, bishop g6, and I think knight e2. White ends up a pawn, but clearly black has some compensation in the form of the active pieces and the bishop pair. But I think that the computer values this as like +1. So I was very happy to, I'm glad I know this variation. And so I was ready to go into that. But instead, they surprised me with bishop d7, which really is in the spirit of the position, because after takes, the king is just offside, and what ends up happening is that after castles, white is just up a pawn, and black doesn't have sufficient compensation here. The point is that if they take on d4, then I have queen a4 check, picking up the pawn, and I'm still going to be up a pawn, and the black king is completely exposed. So bishop d6 was chosen, and here think I correctly played the move d3, because if I take on e5 now, then after queen takes e5, you know, there's some additional things to worry about on the diagonal. So I just played d3, and there's no really good square for the queen on, like, you know, the 5th rank here. So the queen just comes back to g6, and after I take on e5, I push d4, and then I play knight c3. So the strategy is just simple, you know, just develop pieces and trade them off, because I am up a pawn and I should be winning in the endgame. So knight b4, yeah, I think this is like one of the only moves. Like, you could retreat with knight f6, but it's clearly very passive. And if you play a move like knight f4, then it's simplest to just take and play queen f3 with a completely active and winning position. So instead, knight b4 was chosen, with some threats maybe of knight c2 or knight d3, but still here I just maintain control over the position with queen a4 check, activating the queen with tempo. After king d8, all I saw when I calculated this position was that if they go king d8, I should be very happy. There's like, they disconnect the rooks. If it steps on the e file, then I can give a check, and if they play c6, then I can play the move d5 here, just trying to rip open the black king position. And after rook hc8, I just take on c6, rook c6, and rook d1. You know, moves like bishop f4 and knight b5 are coming. This is like basically lost for black. So king d8 was chosen, and then here I just play a3, kicking the knight out. And the knight comes to d3, because if it comes to c2, then after rook b1, my rook is being defended by the knight, and this knight is very close to being trapped. For example, the bishop d2 and then rook c1. So knight d3, after knight b5, still going with the same plan of just exchanging pieces off. And in this position, I was a bit afraid of bishop f4, which after I played knight b5, I thought, like, you know, this principally should be the best move, just trying to trade pieces off. And after bishop f4, the point is that if I take on f4, then it becomes less clear. The knight activates with the threat in g2. So after this sequence, knight e2, knight f4, I need to play f3 here to prevent queen f3 check. And white is still a lot better, but this is, I think, less clear than what happened in the game. And instead, I should actually just take on a7 here, giving up one exchange. But the point is that there's knight c6 check right now, which is a big threat. So black has to play king e7, but after I give knight c6 check, the king runs up the board, and I play queen c4. I'm not sure if I would have... I mean, I probably would have found this move, because it's like... because it gets out of the attack from the rook and centralizes the queen. And the point is that after they take the exchange with knight takes c1 and rook a takes c1, they can't take the exchange here, but this actually just loses on the spot to knight e5. And now we see the point of the queen being on c4. It pressures f7, and after a move like queen h5 defending f7, I can play g4, and black is just busted because f7 is going to drop, or the queen is going to be lost. So yeah, I mean, it actually just worked out at the very end. But instead, knight takes c1 is chosen, which I think is the best move. And rook a takes c1, a6, and I go with the same plan, just trading off pieces. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, and here I should be like completely winning. But the thing is that I'm just up one pawn, right? So I just need to keep on keeping up the initiative. And I had this plan of playing rook c6 and doubling on the c file. But I thought that I was being a bit clever with rook fe1, because I thought that this prevented the move rook e8. But really what I should have done is just go rook c6 immediately, because I want my rook to be on c1 anyways, so there's no good reason that I would put the excuse me, that I would put it on e1 first. So after rook fe1, king c8, I realized my mistake and I played rook c6. After queen d7, rook ec1. Now my plan is just to play, like, you know, queen e7, and I don't really want to trade off my my two rooks with the queen, even though that would be up material. But still, I just want to keep up the pressure here with moves like queen a5 and like d5, d6, making use of the pin. So here rook a7 was chosen, and then I played queen a5. And here the plan is really simple. If they play a move like king b8, then I just push the d pawn forward. Something like this would be crushing. If they play rook b7, then I can just take on e6. This is completely lost. And if they play king e8, then still I can just give this check, take here, and then we actually just transpose that variation, completely winning here. So instead, my opponent plays queen takes d4, and the point is that after rook takes c7, they play king b8. Obviously, if they take here, then they're just getting mated. So king b8, after rook 7 to c4. Yeah, here I had an interesting decision to either take on a7 here, and like for example, if they play queen takes a7, then queen e5 would pick up a pawn. Or if they play like king takes a7, I could play just like queen c7 and pick up this guy, pick up f7 as well. But I thought that, there's no reason to trade off my rook, which is much better than black's rook for anything. So I just play rook 7 to c4, which I'm really happy about. Threatening also some rook b4 ideas. So after queen d7, play queen e5 check. And this could pick up a pawn very simply. Or after king a8, I include this other move, king or queen e4. And the idea is after, first off, if the queen blocks, then it's just going to lead to instant checkmate. So king b8 was chosen, and then I play rook d4. And here I was anticipating some move like, let's see. Actually, yeah, I don't think there is a good move. I think rook c7 is the only move here to try to keep everything together, because if queen b7, then just rook b4 wins the queen. And there's no really good square for the queen, and the king is completely shut out here. So like a8's covered, b7's covered, every single square is covered. So rook b4 is a serious threat right now. And so yeah, after rook d4, rook c7 would have to be played. And here I can actually just simplify to a better endgame, which I didn't see at first glance, but I thought that the pressure, black shouldn't have any tricks with the back rank here. After queen e5, queen d4, takes on c7, and then I just play h3, a calm move, giving some lift to the king. But after this, yeah, my rook is just entering the game with too much activity. For example, something like this would be just completely winning. King a7, queen c5 just wins. Yeah. So instead, queen e7 was chosen, but I saw this in advance and I was happy to play rook b4. Because now if they play rook b7, then their queen is just hanging due to the pin on the rook. And so they were forced to play queen b7 here. After that, I just simply trade. I play queen e5. I could pick up another pawn, but I thought just exchange pieces. There's no reason to be even more greedy. Rook d8, last trick, threatening rook d1 checkmate. So I just play h3. And actually in hindsight, h4 is even stronger because at the very end, this pawn can just promote. So. But instead I just play h3, rook b to d8, rook d to b8, rook takes b7, rook b7, queen g7, and then here my opponent started playing fast, f5, queen e5, rook b5. And something that I learned actually is that you're allowed to, because this is a game like 90 plus 30, so 90 minutes for each side, plus 30-second increment from move 1. You're allowed to respond to your opponent's quick move one time. But what you're not allowed to do is respond to your opponent's quick move 2 times in a row, and by doing that, you're forgetting to write down the moves. So that's actually a violation, and I could get a warning, which my opponent did say during the game. And yeah, I think for the subsequent games, I didn't suffer this problem anymore. But it was quite frustrating. When being told this at first, because I just had no clue. But anyways, queen h8 check, king a7 takes, and then here after rook b7, I should have seen this idea immediately, but taking this and just playing h4 wins, because this pawn creates a square and the king isn't inside the square, and it just can't stop the pawn. For example, this is a common rule of the square, where the king just can't chase the pawn. So I should have seen that, but eventually I saw it, so I played just queen h8, defending the b2 pawn, rook b8, queen d4 there, and then I finally take on b6, and I play h4, and my opponent resigned. So at the end of this game, I'm on 2.5 out of 3. A very good score so far, after being in basically retirement from classical chess for 4 years. But I wasn't happy with my second round game, and so I'm just hoping to play good chess not really having any expectations of like the result, just playing well. And so yeah, that concludes this the analysis of my third round game. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. I'll see you next time. Bye.